With each passing year I noticed that all games except Mountain Blade and Kenshi are starting to become less interesting in relation to IRL entertainments, such as travel, wood carving, women. Thankfully, these masterpieces, with their replayability, insane strategies, remain as an excellent salvation even in the harshest times of my gaming impotence. Today I decided to gather all my autistic guidemaker strength to uncover all possible secrets and exploits and combine it in my most shameless playthrough, where I will gather a gigantic army of robots, conquer the entire map, build an autonomous indestructible base that no faction will be able to destroy, and prove that Kenshi is not a hardcore and fair game, as many believe, but rather a test of how deep into the darkness you are willing to descend. A game that demands attentiveness, sharp intellect, and a complete lack of conscience. Pretty much like real life, except in IRL, losing limbs won't make you stronger. To build a proper base, as you may know, you need at least one snake, preferably with only one arm. Fortunately, the game has a suitable start for me. But if you're not into role-playing and just want to simplify your gameplay as much as possible, I'd recommend starting with a party of 6 characters and making all of them skeletons, since robots are objectively the best race in the game. To gather the starter pack of the Wasteland Conqueror, my first decision was to escape from the cozy yet dangerous Slaver Desert and head to the Holy Nations farmers. Honestly, I have never interacted with the local police paladins themselves, because it's too risky. If you just install an implant, they immediately label you a robot and a heretic and a furry. But you know, even here, the farmers are kind and peaceful folk, and they happily shared food with me. Near the farm was a massive mountain ridge, and by passing through its western side, I found ruins filled with blood spiders. Running around them, I leveled my stealth up to 50. Not bad, though I got lazy and stopped grinding. I looted a couple of skeleton robots that, for some reason, were lying around. Their katanas are priced like a brand new high-end RTX furnace, considering you'd be buying this crap from a smuggler reseller in Moscow who brought it in from Turkey to at 90% of the original price to this at best 20% performance boosting piece of junk. In this context, by the way, it's extremely funny how DeepSeek recently claimed that they trained their model on unlimited non-sanctioned cards. If you guys suddenly manage to get me 10 million views, I could buy an H100 tomorrow at the Mitina radio market near my house for around 30-something thousand bucks. By the way, if I'd been less lucky and not found dead skeletons there, I would have lured one or two of them into fighting the Okran fanatics. Skeleton loot is just too good. This repair kits is even better than my night panic attacks. I've started to enjoy them lately. Leaving the mountains, I headed north, to the swampy lands littered with skeletons, insane rust skeletons, and metal spiders. What I am doing here, I want to recruit the best companion in the game, Burn. He even has his own house with a repair bed and some loot. One problem, he constantly wanders away from his tower. The best way to check if he's nearby is to try stealing something from this place. If the theft chance is below 100, he's around. If not, it's faster to just reload and re-enter the location. Finally, he's in my party, and now, important fact. When training theft, assassination and lockpicking, a character must be missing one arm to make it faster. My snake is perfect, straight out of the box, but I wanted to make Burn perfect too. So I found the nearest iron spider, made Burn block its attacks, removed his armor and let him take hits. First his arm was only half damaged, and he passed out. I healed him, stopping just before the healing applied to his arm, and sent him in for a second round. This time, arm gone. After recovering on the repair bed, Burn headed to the land of his people, to recruit said Neil. Meanwhile, I went to the highways, because that's the best way to make money from absolute zero. The friendly local bugs are always fighting some dinosaurs and gorillas, whose hides I sell to the local vendor. When our team reunited in this wonderful place, I had a solid amount of money, enough to buy the 2 worst prosthetics in the game. I intentionally picked the worstest ones to maximize debuffs on theft and lockpicking. So in the nearest Holy Nation city, where the people not too fond about prosthetics and skeletons, I was able to get a couple of one-room apartments. Here we can escape and re-enter as much as we wanted. I recommend getting in the cage with at least 30 lock level. The more difficult it is to pick a lock, the more convenient it is to level up the skill. Also in Kenshi, level goes faster the bigger the skill debuff on you. And these prosthetics provide a massive one. Even characters with only one hand have a better chance to pick a lock than with this shit equipped. Prison training of lockpicking is probably the easiest in the game, but it's not fully automatic. You need to exit and re-enter the cage to refresh the lock. Ideally, you can level up the skill here to 70, as that's the magic number when you can go through any lock in the game without using these tools or specialized robot limbs. But I'm too lazy, so I left earlier. I'll probably naturally max it out just by exploring the map. After a million attempts, I finally shake off the Holy Nation's tail and, under cover of night, head to the shacks, visiting 2 cities along the way. Thanks to my insane luck, none of the items I need were in the first city, so I had to circle around these mountains. I almost got lost, but finally I found what I need. A wooden backpack and a ton of building materials, plus some junk like water barrels, just to completely clutter my inventory. Next stop, the Sand King's Fortress. A local gang of bandits is perfect for training theft. All I did was open one of their containers, put some building materials inside, and started clicking on them. Since my inventory is full, I couldn't actually take them, but because wooden backpacks stack items, the game let me attempt it endlessly. The result? Instead of transferring items back and forth to train theft, you just click on an item you're trying to steal, and the skill skyrockets. This speeds up the process about 3 or 4 times, and if you have a mouse with macro buttons that can repeat right clicks when held, you get 90 level theft in seconds and level 100 in minutes. I, for example, just put my fancy pink iPhone 6 on a button and went to make an omelette. If theft XP don't increasing, don't worry, it's a bug. Just reload and you should be able to get XP again. Different races have different skill multipliers. Since I trained 2 characters at once, I can even compare their speed on the timeline. Skeletons train theft slightly slower than humans, especially Scorchlander humans. As a true Scorchlander at heart, I looted those guys' food, took off my backpack and stored it into my inventory, so they couldn't take it back when I pass out. I escaped their hideout. Unfortunately, to lose their aggro, you either abuse safe load or, like me, nobly take a beating and heal up with help of other characters in the party. Now, considering Snake and Burn officially master thieves, time to get the best robot limbs from the skeletons. The journey wasn't even that dangerous. Acid rain was surprisingly refreshing. I immediately went up to the 2nd floor of the prosthetic trader and socialized the contents of his chest. By the way, he restocks it every day, so for storing my loot I bought a small shack nearby, set up a research table and many chests, using the very same construction materials that I had been leveling my thievery with. Thanks to my skill level, as you can see, I don't need to rely on saves coming. The chance of getting caught is 0. The only catch is after a theft, I had to stay out of sight for 3 seconds. In Kenshi, if a trader catches you stealing, they simply disappear from the map. Basically, that's the same as killing them. To get back such vendor, you have to import your save while unchecking the Import Dead NPCs option. This reset of all NPCs position has some other useful applications, like refreshing merchant inventories, farming infinite loot from bosses by knocking them out, taking items and resetting the world, finding lost characters, like with Burn, re-rolling spawns in towns like Shark, where skeleton mercenaries should spawn but sometimes don't. Save imports also serve a legitimate function. If you build too close to a settlement, sometimes there is a bug where your building gets claimed by the town, making it unusable and also indestructible. A reset fixes it. The game also has a nasty bug where kidnapped NPCs can escape and vanish permanently. Like if you're carrying someone and switch to another character, after some time you might return your camera just to find your arms empty. This happens more often when the kidnapper runs too fast, causing the game to unload the NPC from a memory, I guess. Anyway, what's up with the snake party? By selling stolen prosthetics, I made an easy fortune. Some of them I sold back to the owner, laundering robot limbs through crossbow lockers placed in my house, which removed the stolen stages from it, and the rest said Neil just smuggled in that small town and United Cities while stacking up on building materials and books. Since I choose a flesh and blood main character instead of a skeleton, that came with certain problems when it comes to traveling across the map. Animals can eat you, crazed robots skin you, and bugs might feed you to their king. Meanwhile, a skeleton would just take a couple of bonks to the head and be left alone. So I decided to play it safe. From the moment I understood the weakness of my flesh, to make Snake immune to these dangers, I removed his shoes and crawled around the acid wasteland a bit. But his legs legs didn't just melt off, so I had to bait local skeletons into a fight. If positioned correctly on a staircase, his legs would be the most exposed part. First, second. Okay, now I ensured that my human character wouldn't get eaten by a dinosaur on the way to Cat-Lon. With scout legs, I just have too much move speed for anyone to catch me. Roaming groups of robo-hobos and robo-spiders in the Ashlands turned out to be great for training stealth. Maybe now he could finally ditch his box. In the center of the location, I snuck up behind Cat-Lon, choose the slowest game speed and spam right-click on him, trying to knock him out. At assassination level of 85, I finally managed to drop him. I take his armor, weapon, and here's the trick. If you take these components items from his inventory before he wakes up, he dies. But if you let him stand up first, you can loot this without any consequences. To keep grinding my assassination skill, I removed left prosthetic arm and continued the process. I haven't trained up a second character this way. So I wish Cat-Lon and this whole region the best of luck, and on the way out, I paid a visit to the local lunatic, the guy who indoctrinated these robots into skinning people. Since I sent Burn to negotiate, the guy wasn't hostile. He even offered to let me join his gang. You know, I support Iceland's ban on circumcising children. Probably you think I'm a strange person, but I've always found the love for manipulating human skin freaking weird. Yeah, I knocked him out, stole the skinning machine blueprint, and naturally looted his entire house. Ancient books or repair kits. I'm so glad I leveled up lockpicking. Once I built the skinning machine in my house, I upgraded all my cyborgs. Speed legs and strength arms are the best implants in the game. Skeleton hands are not bad for keeping the cap of 1.20 attack speed. Everything else is situational. Like those stealth legs, which you'll use maybe twice in the whole playthrough to rob the same robots without getting caught. With infinite money from robot limbs, I bought some masterwork armor from the Armor King. Since his inventory sucks most of the time, I had to camp around his sunken shop until he finally stocked something decent. At some point I even considered running to the locations where masterwork clothing spawns, but then I remembered that I am lazy and decided to settle for just taking the best helmet in the game and the blueprint for it. Since Snake is human, helmet is a must-have. The best one isn't sold by the Armory King, so I had to look for it at the Crab Fanatics base. You had to ally with them so their merchant would start trading. Okay, now I'm thinking about a more proper base to research things, store equipment. I decided to settle on the way station near the Black Desert, set up a huge research bench, and had Neil study the knowledge of past civilizations day and night. Periodically, he ran to Black Desert City, World's End, and Flat Lagoon to stock up on research materials. To maximize efficiency, I placed multiple research tables so my companions could assist in studying to make it faster. At first few days, I forgot to set up wind generators for power, but I eventually fixed that. Also added lightning since darkness severely slows work speed. While the nerds are cramming, I tried to recruit a little more scrap metal to my pack. First up, Anno, a defective mute skeleton. The good thing about her, she always spawns in a cage in that tower. That place is run by two lunatics enslaving their own kind. I guess the Robocoast caused by humans wasn't enough for them. Psychos. Since Anno can talk, I see her as more of a temporary companion, but her strength will anyway be useful. Other random skeletons records can be found in various towns. Our way station, Black Scratch, Shark, The Hub, Crab Town, Morn, and of course I didn't find a single one. I scoured the entire map, checked every bar and outpost. Nothing! I could have used the import save trick to refresh NPC spawns, but doing that just to get companions felt dishonorable, cheap, unworthy, so I have to work with what I have. Time to train my dating sim AI models into real battle-hardened diamond dogs. Recently I researched skeleton repair beds. By positioning them this way, they can be used as a St. Andrew's cross, to which... oh boy, who hasn't tied me up on one of these before? Anyway, the plan, we'll use these beds to restrain powerful enemies and turn them into punching bags. At least one prisoner should be humanoid, while the rest can be various beasts. The idea is that while training on the humanoid, my weapon will also hit the other captives, leveling my skills more efficiently per strike. It's clear that the number of captives could be comically huge, but I'll limit myself to 3, because increasing the number of training dummies exponentially raises the complexity of the entire process, and instead of training, anything, you're just trying to set up all those monsters properly, making sure they don't scatter around your house. I decided to capture them in descending order of difficulty. The reason is simple: after a target is captured, it must remain in the hands of one of my companions until training is complete, otherwise captive will escape. The first target is Metal Gear King, a metallic, animal-like creature perceived as a monarch by the southern hives. The exact reason is unknown. Miyazaki hasn't written the lore yet. For preparation, I gave Anna a wooden backpack with a stock of building materials. I stock up on ranged weapons. Each model uses different ammunition, so if you don't have time to reset vendor's stock, just buy different types of crossbow and bolts for each character. Thanks to my robot limbs, even a heavily loaded squad can outrun the local hivers. The king is completely harmless when alone, and only becomes aggressive when a friendly hive is nearby, or if you're really close to him. My strategy is to place a building as close to the hive city as possible. I don't need to actually build the thing, wireframe is enough for me. The goal is to bring the construction zone closer to these stakes. Near them I just put 2 parallel walls, with the staircases leading to them. As I was finishing the walls, it turned out I had brought a tail with me, and the only way to get rid of it was to get my ass kicked. After construction, the next goal is to find the king himself. He roams a large area around the hive, so if he isn't spotted immediately, the best solution is to use the bait. As soon as the king approaches, I untie myself from the pole and lure him into one of the walls. As I mentioned earlier, the easiest way to aggro him is with one of the hivers, or by gradually shooting him from close range. Once the king is lured onto the wall, I'm getting off it and destroy the stairs through the interface. After that, I run onto the second wall. I was doing it for too long, so there was no other option but to let my entire squad get knocked out by another hive patrol. Once they left, I finally climbed the parallel wall, removed the ladder, and now my archers squad was one-on-one with the king. After taking down the mechanical beast, I retreated to the Cat-Lon. Besides a well-known weapon shop, the city has 2 stores selling building materials. This place will soon become a home for my next guest, Mr. Toughness. His stats are the highest among all humanoids, even higher than Cat-Lon's. Yes, kidnapping him will turn anti-slavers against me, but technically you can fix relations with any faction by simply dropping one of their members into a slaver's floor, buying them back, knocking them out again, and repeating the process as many times as needed. Toughness needs to be fixed with the pillar machine, but only after removing his armor. Otherwise, the machine will break it. Okay, the third target is Gorilla King. I simply lured the dumb ape to this spot near the water and easily took care of him. Regarding the training itself, I tried different methods. At first, I tested different cities, different houses in these cities, and spent about 13 game days on this. Literally as much time as my entire playthrough before it, but in the end I found the simplest solution. In Cat-Lon, I fill wooden backpacks with iron ore, which I mine right outside the city. You just need that to be in your inventory for overloading, not equip it, because those backpacks give a debuff to attack speed, which greatly slows down training. I also collect a tin can, samurai armor, and samurai pants for skill debuffs, and equip 2 skeleton arms to increase attack speed due to the dexterity bonus they provide. If I decide to change the character I train, I transfer all the above mentioned equipment to him. As for combat skills, I'm interested into martial arts and heavy weapons. Unarmed combat doesn't require anything special, but for heavy weapons you need to find the worst possible chunk of iron you can. The shacks in Screen have a million of rusty shit for such occasion. Unarmed combat has the potential to deal the highest damage in game, because in addition to scaling with dexterity and strength like any other fighting skill, it also benefits from the Toughness attribute. However, this absurd damage is balanced by the fact that with heavy stuff in your inventory, the character completely loses the ability to fight, as both unarmed combat and dodge skills are reduced proportionally to overload. Speaking of dodge, instead of the fast block move, character performs some Neo-like animations. Unfortunately, it cannot be sped up with equipment or dexterity skill, unlike blocking. This creates a problem where a pack of low-level dogs can stunlock even the toughest way of the open hand Shaolin triple S monk. Heavy weapons, on the other hand, has no such problem. They are extremely effective against groups of enemies, even though the damage per hit is is lower, in most situations, a giant hunk of iron is more practical than fists, which is pretty realistically. For me, martial arts are just a backup plan. Theoretically, it's possible that someone knock you out and steal your weapon, and instead of mashing below the button with high MO, I just get up from a coma and take my gear back. I also considered using a katana. It's the fastest weapon, but the moveset has a flaw. A fast double strike followed by a moment where the character stands idle and doesn't even block. This effectively kills the entire weapon class and removes its main advantage. As you remember, in the city on the rooftop, I built this structure. One repair bed in the center, and the second one should be against the wall, so that the green rope turns red. Then on the other side I place a regular bed and remove the green rope with any small object, like a fabric storage box. The main thing here is, after building, to check that the characters can attack Tin Fist. I pick a random drunk from the local prison on my trainee's shoulder to have more overload. The city guards don't care about taking criminals from police office, by the way. But anyway, block the entrance to the training house, so guards don't aggro on your training dummies. Okay, preparation is complete. On the first floor of my house, I drop the gorilla, right-click on it, and wait her to stand up and attack me. This way I'm getting aggro against it. Then I immediately pick it up and place it on a regular bed. I put the Hive King on the repair bed on the opposite side and Tin Fist on the front one. Then I just attack Tin Fist. I first train martial arts. For this, overloading is essential for maximum experience gain. For melee weapon skills, the heavy backpacks must be removed, because for some reason overloading with melee weapons gives experience debuffs. Pants should also be removed since they slow down attack speed. If all the above mentioned conditions are met, skill leveling progresses at an absurdly fast rate. For about 30 minutes of watching YouTube and writing this text, it was done. Whoever says this is cheating or something like that, there are 3 of the strongest bosses in the game lying on my tables. Come on! By the way, training fists also levels up dexterity and strength based on a percentage of overload you have. If the load is 100, then strength gets the same XP as dexterity and the unarmed skill itself. Simply walking while over-encumbered won't even come close to this leveling speed. And for human, you even get a slight toughness increase when training martial arts. For characters not participating in training, you can heal one of the punching bags, thereby leveling medical skills. After training, I generously return the gorilla and the king back to their places, so they don't die in a way in case I need to visit them again. But as for Tin Fist, I let him sit in a cage for now. Also, I'll block the exit to make sure he doesn't escape. Time to level Toughness, the stat that increases damage resistance, reduces the chance of randomly dying, and lets you recover from a coma faster. It levels up ridiculously easy. I remove the character's arms prosthetics, because for some reason armless characters level Toughness faster. Then I look for a large group of enemies that won't eat us alive, and preferably they don't throw us out of the location. Almost any bandit camp will be good. Ideally, you could gather exactly 20 enemies inside a makeshift fence made of houses on this location, for example. To avoid accidentally one-shotting one of them, I turned on blocking mode. Main thing here is to set the game to 1x speed, open the inventory with the prosthetics, and press left-click on one of the legs to make the character fall down. Then I release left-click and leg returns to its place. Then right-clicking on the ground, the character starts getting up, and as soon as he do, I hold the leg for a second, he falls again, and I repeat this until I become ridiculously tough. By the way, in some versions of the game, there's a bug. If there are more than 20 enemies around you, you don't gain XP. If that happened, just reduce enemy numbers to 20. Returning to the topic of Tin Fist, I need to buy the worst katana possible, with the absolute minimum damage. I've got one from Thieves in a Hub. I also buy some cheap robot legs, and there's also that armor that increases attack speed, but that's optional. So after equipping Tin Fist with all that stuff, and most importantly, the same dexterity boosting robot arms, I started defensive skills training. I lay on the repair bed, and that's it. Tin Fist starts working hard on leveling up my dodge skill. You can do the same thing, but less effectively with flesh and blood characters on a regular bed, though it's significantly slower due to weaker regeneration. By the way, I can speed it up a little by positioning the camera straight at the ground. For some reason in Kenshi these things are connected. Also important thing here, don't be overloaded. Somehow it slows down dodge training. I don't know why. To level block, you'll have to get up from the bed. unfortunately. Here's the best method is to use some blueprints to build a limiter, so the character doesn't fall out of the house from Tin Fist's hits. Also, the key thing is to have the best possible armor, so it doesn't hurt too much when Tin Fist beats you. While training is happening, I could have also dragged Cat-Lon here and equip him katana too, to train 2 characters at once, but honestly I was too lazy to do that. In the end, my 4 super soldiers were trained in about 2 hours of casually sipping tea and writing this text. Perfect productivity. So without a second thought, I can equip Snake with Cat-Lon's Mato. A human character needs close supervision anyway, so I think I won't lose this blade. For the other characters, I can buy 3rd type Falling Suns. They're sold by skeletons here. Or in the future I could craft slightly worse 2nd type ones. I mentioned productivity. By this point, my 3 skeletons, studying at 3 science stations right after the gym, are already finishing the research of all the technologies I need. And let me just say, it wasn't only the skeletons who had to use their non-existing brains here. I need to fit within this number of resources. The first thing I took is level 5 tech. After upgrading research bench to match that level, I remove all rare artifacts to nearby chest. To avoid accidentally using them while I'll unlock all the technologies that only require regular books that can be infinitely bought from most of the local traders. After obtaining those free technologies, I return rare artifacts to the table and peak research continues with ore drilling and its automation. Next important thing, hybrid stone mine. There is no point in upgrading default stone mining when you have that. For minor upgrades, I unlock processing hemp into fabric, giant buildings and armor crafting. Now it seems I've used up all the research resources that honest merchant like me can buy, without importing the safe to reset vendors' stock. By this point, I never visited any ancient ruins. I could do it, my characters are strong enough, but I don't want this to be a fair fight. My plan is to completely steamroll all the defenders of ancient knowledge with my army that I create in the future. To make the process more convenient, I also decided to take hydroponics technology, so I littered 2 books near the skeleton city and farmed an AI core from a purifier. This is of course optional. I could have used regular plantations, but the problem is in this game it's not convenient at all. I just cannot target the default garden beds with my mouse. They just blend into the ground, take up a lot of space, and walkers have to go beyond the protected houses into the dangerous world to collect the food. So I guess I have everything I need. Time to create the mother base. I had a couple of options in mind where to build it. Heft with its massive number of merchants, or Squin, basically the same thing but not a desert, so you can even grow something on Earth. Scratch, one of the best cities but not for the big base. But I settled on Flat Lagoon. 5 merchants, well set up on a compact, flat surface, in the middle of water. I'm not even pretending to roleplay, this is genuinely the best spot. Without leaving the city, you can gather the products from your factories and immediately sell them. No more running around with robot limbs, you just have infinite money, limited only by the merchant stock refresh rate. With the strength my characters have, they can carry 2 fully loaded wooden backpacks without losing speed, so the process is super easy. On this side of the city, I set up a house to expand my building zone, then another and another. Now I'm close enough to the lagoon and I'm building several more houses. Time to surround everything with walls. The walls will take up a large area, covering iron and copper deposits that can be easily found using this button at the lower right part of the screen. Gaps between houses and walls can be filled with the little building stuff like cages. Enemies sometimes may place some of your walkers in them during attacks, but you know that's actually an advantage. It protects the walkers to some degree. Besides, what enemies I'm talking about? Next to the gates I made a corner with walls, creating ideal conditions for turrets. Though I probably won't use it, still this architectural detail is important. Now I just need to find the resources to build all this. I set Anna to mine copper and store it nearby. Around each character who's working, researching or crafting, I place a torch so their speed isn't halved. Near the copper mine I set up a tiny house, where the said Neil will make electronic components from the copper Anna collects, and it wouldn't hurt to set up a battery. Next, for now I just need to build a hybrid stone mine and a level 1 wind generator, somewhere on a mountain to avoid wasting useful space in the base. The powered mine with the help of said Neil will generate materials to build walls and a second quarry, where Anna will work after completing her initial tasks in the queue. By the the way, here's the best way to train stealth. While the characters are building and working, just turn on stealth mode, and the skill will level up passively without any complicated strategies. Yes, at first they will move a bit slower, but once their stealth improves, it won't even cause a debuff on move speed if you don't use a heavy armor. About iron ore mining. Again, thanks to the money from stolen robot limbs and the ancient books I bought, my iron mine is fully automated and doesn't require any workers. Only further manipulations with ore, such as creating iron plates and steel, will require carrying from one machine to another. I think Bern will be happy to help me with that. I'm sure you won't be surprised to learn that my 3 robots just wipe the floor with any potential attackers. But no matter how strong they are, each of them has only 2 working arms. Time to set up a wet hydroponics in some house, dig an automated well with a water storage, place a grain mill by the building's exit, and the oven with a basket for the bread nearby. I built this all in advance because I'm planning to use the ancient technique, known only to Mountain Blade players and liberal politicans, I guess. For the next half hour, Snake ran around the neighboring towns, gathering all the local bombs in Queen and other Czech cities. There were a lot of zero stats guys who would do well at bending their backs on the acid swamp. Oh wait, in this part of the lagoon the water isn't poisoned, even more convenient. I'm not planning to pay them welfare, and there are no kid dance classes nearby, so for now they'll be useful. Of course, eventually we'll send them all to Guantanamo, but first they need to be brought to this side of the wall. My main character carrying a Cat-Lon's blade could solo Leviathan without any problems while running at the speed with which my father left the family, but even he can't wipe ass off every one of these crook-toothed peasants, who, as if on purpose, try to get themselves eaten by the local fauna. Honestly, I'm not even sure if anyone died on the way or not. At this point, I didn't care. After all I need is just to fill my companion slots. On the map there are clearly more recruits than 30, and there's no point in taking less. More walkers equals faster progress. Okay, everyone is gathered. First I need to normalize food production and figure out how many walkers would be needed for it to keep the population fed. Over time, as they level up, 2 will be enough. Other guys I set on a hemp production, and even though I'm near the lagoon, hemp won't be turned into hash here. Instead we'll make fabrics, which is made 50% faster from hemp than from cotton. Returning to mining stuff, I built more machines to make both iron plates and steel ingots. After that I set up a forge, and the circle was complete. The forge requires both clothes and steel to make blades. Obviously, this will be done by a skeleton. Blacksmithing is too important skill to assign to someone made of flesh and blood. Ideally, I'll be crafting Nadachi, the most expensive weapon in the game. When there are several blacksmiths, I'll switch to Wakizashi, as it has the best size to price ratio. Once the blacksmithing skill is high enough, I'll make a Falling Suns for a whole team. Unfortunately, as you remember, you won't be able to outdo the guys from the Skeleton City, not to mention the Mato, but hey, at least it's free and quick. And don't forget to repeat the queue. Next to the forge I set up an armor smith, and opposite it a plate beating station, so the blacksmiths don't have to run too far to get iron plates and steel bars. I placed storages with that nearby, and forced one of the workers to carry the resources here. The armor smith will make samurai armor, armored rag skirts, and crab helmets. In the house I set up a leather tanning stand, clothing, and leather armor crafting benches. There are only 2 worthy non-iron cloths, martial artist bindings that boosts damage by 5%, and the leather turtleneck, production of which you can't automate. For turtlenecks you'll have to farm hides from big things in this forest. And now all that's left for me is to watch as my outer heaven build itself before my eyes, while its residents receive increasingly better gear, which production chain I set to this house at the border with the city, so that the blacksmith and armor smith can bring their stuff to these chests. And one of my guys who stole a shopkeeper's bag in advance now just take the swords straight from the lagoon and sell them in the city, making about 100,000 cuts every in-game day just in 30 seconds. Indeed, a man who sold the world. Remembering that I needed to place bets in the settlement, after that I decided to roam around the map and grab a few ancient manuscripts to speed up production. After all, even from such small thing like the 4th level walls you can make bridges. AI cores are the easiest to get. They can be farmed from the cleanser units mob in the Ashlands. Everything else had to be shaken out of ancient labs inhabited by the remains of the past empires. By accident, my map clearing started with Anno soloed the tower where 2 psychoskeletons held her in captivity. Loot there was pretty good. Also, after researching all the remaining stuff, I started creating ideal robot limbs. For a single production line, you need 5 robotic benches. On the first one you craft the press, the second one will make the skeleton muscle, the third will create a motor, the fourth will make robotic components, and the fifth one one is for crafting robot limbs themselves, like the lifter's arms and the scout's legs. You need 5 people for that. Around this moment I looked at the clock. It's already about 3 p.m. My messed up sleep schedule is catching up with me, and it's time to get some rest, but obviously there is no reason for my workers to take a break. Labor unions haven't been reinvented yet, so I'm setting up more chests for robotics, armor and weapons, and now I need to figure out how to keep the settlement safe while I'm gone. The simplest method is to move one of the skeletons to safe location far away. This way raid events just don't appear unless you move the camera near the settlement. Another option is to block all the walls and gates with indestructible objects like houses, cages, cause in theory bandits, though in my 1000 hours of playing Kenshi that was never happened, can break the walls, but they surely can't destroy houses. Anyway, my next day. After crafting all this high-level gear and accumulating a couple of million cats, I gather all my workers, each of whom has leveled their athletics well past 90 by running around the base, and head to the same mountains from the beginning to do some recruiting. But since in Kenshi you doesn't have a helicopter, after the knockout you have to carry a robot on foot. Once each squad member has a skeleton on their shoulder, we run to the nearest Amazon warehouse. There I choose one of my useless human hive shag chunks of meat, drop the skeleton from their shoulder, not placing him in a cage, that's important. I want the dungeon master to personally put the shackles on my robotic friend. After that I dismiss the guy who brought the skeleton, cause I need a free companion slot. I buy the skeleton from the master for a 20k, lead him away from the city and... he runs off. On the second try I still have the slot available, so no need to kick anyone from the team, and finally, luck is on my side, the skeleton joined, and after several trips to the mountains, I've completely rid my squad of all those disgusting food-needing fleshy peasants, except for myself of course. It would be weird to get rid of a character I started with. At some point of recruiting, by the way, the skeleton faction becomes an ally, and its members stopped passing out after dropping them off shoulder. To fix this, one of my guys will just attack the skeleton and runs off a couple of times to spoil relations. By the way, all the exiled companions become tech hunters and can be found around the world unless you import the save file. If you do, unique companions return to the towns and random ones will be replaced by newly generated records. Since I'm a perfectionist, I replaced all the skeleton's limbs to the best prosthetics. And well guys, Kenshi's conquered 100% in less than a couple of days. It could be done even faster, but I wasn't in a hurry. I just trying out different things in this playthrough and enjoyed the gameplay. If I see you enjoyed this too even a little, I'll immediately start recording a video about a new strat came to my mind based on a secret in-game mechanic that makes it possible to create the perfect warrior who can solo entire armies without giving them a chance. But for now I'm going to air out my chair stuck ass. Hope you liked the video, have a good day.